Well, Dr. Nancy, it's wonderful to have you back on the Profit by Design podcast. And today we are featuring you in our Great Place to Work Spotlight.
Very exciting. I know. We've done the course a couple times, and we just recently hired two amazing people. And I can attribute that all to the course and what I and my staff learned about hiring.
Wow. So you're talking about the How to Hire the Best course. So we will talk about that and get to that in just a little bit. But every time we bring a business owner on to the podcast and feature them in the Great Place to Work Spotlight, I really love to get into what it was like in your business before you had skills around attracting A players to the team and growing the team, because and I think you're a great example of, you started in a place where there was a lot of struggle for you, a lot of stress on you, and you've, in a few years' time, totally transformed your own experience of owning your business through having A players on your team. But also your team members are having a different experience too.
Yes.
And it's so powerful. And it wasn't hard. It was intention in doing those small steps forward that lead to that big change over time.
Right.
So so first off, I just jump right in because I assume people know you. You've been on the podcast several times. This is Dr. Nancy Trimboli. Her business is Trimboli Chiropractic, and Dr. Nancy is also the author of Stealth Health, which, interestingly enough, Stealth Health wouldn't even exist if you didn't have A players on your team, because you wouldn't have had time to write the book. So now you have this wonderful book that's out there in the world, and that's because you have A players on your team.
Correct.
So before we dive into what it used to be, just share a little bit about what Stealth Health is about, because it's a very unique book, and I know that our listeners would be intrigued by what it's all about.
Yes, thank you. Stealth Health was published May of 2020. It took me 2.5 years to write, so I didn't know what was to come upon us in 2020. But the message in the book is even more applicable today than when I wrote it. Stealth Health is a book written for that person that knows there's a better way towards health and wellness than medications and surgeries, but they don't quite know what that better way is. And ironically, that better way very often is right outside their back door. People in their community, services in their state, their community, even their town, that are ways to achieve true health without having to go the conventional medical route, which relies on medications and interventions and surgery. It is not only a glimpse into how to discover those things, but it's also a step-by-step plan for the person who has an underlying health issue, how to unravel their own health mystery, how to be their own best expert, better questions to ask when they're going for interventions or medical or holistic care. And I'm super, super proud of this book, and I think it could really help a lot of people.
What are some of the success stories that you've heard from readers of the book?
Recently I had one of my own patients at Trimboli Chiropractic come in to see me, and she said her son had some issues, some challenges. And when she went to talk to her medical doctor about what was next, she had read chapter 4, which is how to approach medical testing like a boss, meaning you are paying these people to serve you and solve your issue. So when medical tests are recommended, what are the 4 questions you should be asking? Because often medical tests lead to just either more medical tests or no changes in treatment. It's just a test result. So she was very proud of herself that she had those 4 questions in mind, and she was able to understand the process more fully and get answers to the questions that questions she didn't even know she should ask, but she got better results and better answers.
She really felt empowered. And
Yes.
because she felt empowered, she was able to get more of what she needed. So that's phenomenal. So the book is Stealth Health. It's available on Amazon, right?
Yes, it's available on Amazon. It's also on Audible. It's also available as a Kindle book.
Well, all the different ways you
Mm-hmm.
can access it. So that's awesome. So the book was written in May of 2020, or that was when it was published.
Right.
And you weren't an author. You were someone who wanted to write a book. You had a book in you, and I shouldn't say you weren't an author. You'd written a children's book, Little Squirrel Girl.
Yes.
But you had this bigger project in you. And when you and I connected, you were in a place where your business was just overwhelming. I mean, the amount of stress that you were experiencing was significant. And I know in previous podcasts you've shared that your stress was like on a scale of 100, it was, off the charts.
Right.
So what was it like for you? What was your team like at that time? And what did it feel like for you to go to work in your own business?
I enjoy working. I always have. I enjoyed it at that time. I guess walking in the door, though, I would feel like I was the one that was trying to make the connections with each individual, but I didn't feel like they were either connecting with each other or connecting back. Um, I felt as though I had people in positions who were maybe not really serving our patients the best way they could. And I bring 40 people together of any background, and there's I maybe not always, but there was the gossiping, there was the power plays, there was miscommunication galore. Oh my gosh, should have been our tagline at the office. We'll miscommunicate while we're trying to help you. Um, and it was really stressful because I was having to deal with a lot of strong personalities that had strong opinions, but everybody was running in 40 different directions. Um, and um, and talking about A players, when it really came down to, as I progressed through this process of 40 people, how many A players did I have? It was probably 5, which I was glad to have those 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
That means
as
that you had 35 team members who were not A players.
right,
And so I'm just imagining for myself, because I like to think of myself as an A player. I've been in work environments with people who don't pull their weight, and it's up to the A players to kind of fix things. And so when you're one of 5 A players among 35 others who are not stepping up and bringing their very best to what they're doing, it's draining as a team member to be a part of that. It's very
and
hard to do your best.
I know I lost good people. I lost A players because they were put in very uncomfortable situations that they could not shine at their best because of the people they were surrounded with. I know I lost at least 2 jump to mind immediately. And not that everything was everybody else's fault. I felt like I was a good person, a good businessman, a good businesswoman, a good boss, but I didn't show up as a good boss a lot of times. I
Mhm.
had my own learning and evolution to do, um, to maybe be the catalyst for A players to want to work with me. Um, so yeah, that was all part of the plan too.
I think a lot of our listeners can very much relate to that, because I talk to business owners day in and day out, and a lot of them, especially small business owners, their heart's in the right place. You want to be a good boss, you want to create a great work environment, but you don't know how. You don't have the skills to do it. And that's what I hear you speaking to, is like you had the intention and you had your own learning to do to get to that place.
Right. For sure.
So let's just kind of juxtapose. That was then, and what's now? What does now feel like for you?
Well, now I love my team. I love my staff. On any given day of the week, if you ask me what I'm most grateful for, it'd be my staff for sure. They they're all 18 players. I only have 10 now, so that helps because you narrow the scope and narrow the volume, and I just happen to have all 18 players, but they step up. They want to grow. They want to take on more. They a big problem, not a big problem, but a minor annoyance to them is when I step over my boundary and I ask a question that is really not my job anymore, because they are so much in charge of their position, their job, they're expanding. We have a whole new program we're doing at the office for our patients, and I saw it as a great fit for us. And I said to my office manager, I think it's great. You head it, you do it. And she's just, it's just growing and expanding, and she loves it. She loves taking on that responsibility. We have the right people in the right places doing what their strengths are.
Mm.
We all kind of have this underlying core values that bind us together as a group. And I have more engagement in office meetings, our quarterly planning meeting just the other day. I have more engagement in those meetings than ever, because of I just putting all the pieces in place.
Yeah, it's like just moving them all in place over time. So it's not like you went from how it used to be where things were a struggle, you weren't able to be your best, your team members weren't able to be their best because there was just so many dynamics going on. It's not like that was a switch that was flipped overnight. It was the small steps forward over time that when they come together, there's a significant change. And that's that now that you have a great place to work. That and what I hear in your voice as you describe work, you love it.
Oh yeah.
It feels good to be
Mhm.
there. And the other cool thing is you don't have to be there because your team can handle things, but you love the feeling that you have going into work is like, this is a good place to be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the easiest part of the day, when I get to go to work and be with the people I enjoy, and
Mhm.
we're doing something we're good at. And yeah, it's a great place to be. And my stress level is, I mean, 0.5 out of 0 to 10. I don't even know what
Point,
the 0.5
point
would
five.
be.
That's phenomenal. So you mentioned that your core values are a significant piece of what's helped you build this team, that your team members own these core values, these immutable laws. What are those immutable laws?
Okay, so just off the top of my head, one is we work hard when we're working, showing respect and support for each other. Another one is to give, to love, to serve out of abundance, meaning to our patients and our audience, to those that value our service.
Mhm.
So we are just there to give and love and support our people. Let's see. Oh, one of our favorites is C to the fourth power, which is communication, conversation, collaboration, and consistency.
Ooh, wow. So dig into that a little bit. That's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said previously, our communication was just horrible. Just like even in a meeting, in a staff meeting back in the day, I could think I was saying something very clearly, but it was often misconstrued. Not often, I would say nearly always. There would be some disconnect. That is, we have frequent conversations to make sure we're communicating things properly. Frequent conversations also about possibly touchy subjects, um, and actually verbalizing, communicating what's going on so that we can all be on the same page and ask questions. And whenever we find that there's a little bit of discord, if we just start off with a question like, well, what's happening with you regarding this? How do you feel about this? Just not being afraid to just have a conversation.
Being curious.
Being curious. Yep.
Not making us, and I hear in that not making assumptions.
It is so easy and such a reflex for humans to make assumptions. And that's going to happen regardless. So going into a conversation thinking, I think to myself, I have an idea of what's happening, but I'm not going to go in that direction. I'm just going to say, what's going on with this? And I would say the vast majority of the time, I was totally off base.
That is worth repeating. So you went into the conversation, you had an idea about what's going on, and the majority of the time you were totally off base.
Correct. Yes.
This is not an issue specific to Dr. Nancy. I just want everyone to hear this, because this is human beings trying to communicate. We all have this going on. And so in the workplace, imagine you have 10 people or 40 people and everyone's coming in with their own assumptions. Like, what a mess for communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the simple way to bypass all of that is for you just to show up with curiosity. And when you do that, you're role modeling that for your team members. And so the team members are always watching, what does the boss do? And so if the boss is jumping to conclusions, the team members learn to jump to the conclusions. If the boss is asking questions and being curious, team members learn, hey, we have these coaching conversations around here. We get curious about things.
Mm-hmm.
So it trickles down.
Yeah. And if I think back to what would wake me up at night back in the day when my office would wake me up at 2:30 in the morning and I'd have to, write a terse letter to somebody that I would never send, it was always an assumption that woke me up.
Oh.
It was maybe had a glimmer of reality as the basis, but then the way my mind went, it was just all assumptions.
So let's talk about that, because that happens to a lot of us. We wake up in the middle of the night with this thing on our mind. You make these assumptions, and then we make those assumptions and they get us more wound up and more upset. And we don't go to sleep. Then we go into the office the next day and we're like, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to get it all straight. And then you go into the conversation and it can go off the rails so fast in that scenario, because we are not doing our best thinking and problem solving, and our adrenaline is coursing through us, and other people react to that. So when we stop making those assumptions, what's different for you now, since you are more, it's not like you've stopped making assumptions, because we're all human, we still do it. So what do you do differently now?
All right. So what I do differently now is I kind of put the assumption in the back seat and I just say the words of an open question. I might in the back of my mind, some little part of me might be saying, well, you know what she's going to say. But I just say open-endedly, I see this happen. Tell me about that. Just say the words. And what's kind of fascinating as I talk about it now is that curiosity, or that little mystery that you start to solve when somebody talks to you and tells you what literally is going on with them. It feeds that curiosity. So now as I do that, I get better and better at it, because there's another little part of me that now thinks, you have no idea what's going on, and this is probably super interesting to figure out.
Oh. Wow. That's fascinating. So you've really retrained your brain.
I think I have over time. Yes.
Yeah. So going back to the 4 C's, there was one at the end that I think is probably the most important one.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency.
Yes. It's a brand new one. Yes. We just added that a month or two ago.
And what makes it important? What brought you to add that?
We added this new service at my office, and it's not something that we created from the ground up. We are part of a weight loss program that involves nutrition. The nutrition, I think, is just so spot on with reasons why people hold on to weight. If you could have given me 5 or 6 years, maybe I could have figured it out. But they have it so nailed down, and it's just amazing me. As we see people go through this process and the weight and the interest that they're losing, it just really confirms my belief in this nutritional program. But like I said, we didn't create it. We have to follow somebody else's system. Mm-hmm. So there's 3 members of the staff that introduce this to people and coach people through this nutritional plan. Well, they were going in 3 different directions. Now, there was instructions. It's all written. We've had a lot of training, months of training on it. However, there was still this 3 different direction thing going on. So what we did was we just had a meeting about just exactly that. We didn't create it. We need to learn it. let's just break it down and make it easier for us to like hold this in our brain and actually tell our patients where they can find their own resources so they can stay on track. And I realized that that is just a consistent conversation, meaning all three members of the staff should be saying the same thing. I should be echoing what they're saying. If we
Mhm.
train anybody in the future, they need to be trained to say the same thing. It's scripting and procedure, which is how I built a large practice through scripting and procedure. So I've always had this as part of my practice. The front desk receptionist would know what I was saying to a patient in the x-ray room. That same conversation, my assistant that wasn't in the room with me would know what I was saying because we were that consistent in our
Yeah.
process. So it was something that was already always there, but to write it down as part of our immutable law kind of sealed it like, oh, yes. And another thing I learned from you is when there's discord and it seems like things are not working, there's a gap between what's occurring and your immutable law. Like you
Mhm.
feel it, like there's
Mhm.
a problem. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I bet you if you read your immutable laws, you'll see it. And in this case, we had to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So it
Mhm.
was a missing immutable law. And so what the challenge of our immutable laws is there's so much a part of us. It's hard to articulate them because we just assume everyone else assume that's our
Mhm.
buzzword today. Don't assume, but we tend to just assume everyone else in the world operates this way. And when you feel that discord like you did, it's a sign that there's an immutable law that's been violated, or that the immutable law is there and it has not been expressed yet. And so when you brought it out, the immutable law around consistency, now it's expressed. And the other piece that I hear that I think is really interesting in this is that a lot of us business owners think, well, I've said it once. How come they don't get it? What's wrong with them? So we go
Right.
right into that judgment and right into the assumptions. And you're building C, the fourth C, consistency in, because it means you have to repeat the message and you have to teach it over and over and over. And it's not just you teaching it, your other team members have to teach it so that everyone stays consistent. Saying something once is not enough, saying it 10 times is not enough. It needs to be woven in and done over and over. And that's part of your sweet spot. This service is now part of your
Mhm.
sweet spot. So that
Mhm.
makes it worth the effort in the business. And
Mhm.
that's, you kind of said that in passing. So I want to go back in and dig into that a bit too, because that's a key piece of how you've created a great place to work. So you said I went from 40 team members down to 10.
Mhm.
And as you did that, you also shrunk the number of, you had 2 locations, now you're down to 1 location.
Mhm.
And this was a move that freed up your time and energy. It allowed you to pay yourself again because you were paying your team members, but you weren't paying yourself.
Mhm.
So now you're able to pay yourself again. The business is more profitable. And because it is smaller, you're able to run it with a lean and mighty team.
Mhm. Exactly.
And one thing about A players is that they're 900 to 1200% more productive than warm body team members.
Mhm.
So you can accomplish more and be more profitable with fewer members of your team.
Exactly. Mhm. Yes. Yes, my assistant right now, who he's with me every day, all the way through the day. It's called a table side assistant. He does the work of two, literally, because I think it was a year and a half ago, one of our assistants went to take a job in a different industry. He's doing great. He's in construction, so it's completely different. Loves it, and he's thriving. And he got a promotion, and everything's going great for him. Well, all the work went to my one assistant then, and he just stepped up and he grabbed it by the horns and he figured out ways to do things more streamlined, quicker, better, because he's an A player and because he knew that he could do that and he just took it on.
Wow.
And it's interesting when we do our quarterly planning meetings, we talk about what's worked in the last 3 months that's either improved our profitability, brought more people in, kept things more consistent. What's worked? What's our challenge? And he at one point said, we really want to increase our volume of seeing people during our shifts, but I need another pair of hands. And this is why. And he outlined 3 things. This is why. This is what we could do if we had one more person. So even though he could do it, he was still willing to let somebody else in so we could be better, we could see more people, and be more profitable.
Yeah, so he understands that awareness of when we're at our own capacity and how detrimental it can be if we keep trying to take on more and more. I mean, that's awesome that he gets that. You said something in passing there. There's so much here, Dr. Nancy. So I don't want to gloss over this. The team member who left went on to grow their career and grow themselves. So what's your take on the typical business owner dilemma of I train them, I invest all this time in them, and then they leave? Talk to me about that from your perspective.
It hurts. It really does. It hurts. And we don't do it without a little bit of a fight. However, we have such an amazing team, and the other Immutable Law, we support each other, and that's inside and outside the office. So when somebody's looking, what we found was when somebody's looking outside at something different, we hear about it. It's not like you get slammed with, by the way, I've been moonlighting for the last 3 months and now I'm leaving to go do that. No, we know what everybody is doing. And so actually this week we had a great staff outing. We went to a local baseball park and had a great time. And 2 of my past team members came with us. One was the young man that's now in construction, and another is one of our team members who's now a sheriff deputy.
Wow.
And that was her dream. So when she said she was going to apply for the where they train them, I forget what that's called right now, but where they go to boot camp, when we knew about it. We were all excited for her. But she then was part of the hiring process, which is great. And it's such a great relationship because she was also part of the training process. And A players attract other A players.
Absolutely.
When you have a great hiring system like we do with How to Hire the Best, you don't have to interview everybody. It's like a funnel, which you've said to me, where you start off dragging a net and looking for people that are qualified, and then you gradually funnel down to just a few people that you're going to interview. And by using that, you're not wasting time or energy on people that are not A players or maybe not a good fit. And because you as a business or let me talk about me as a business, we were evolving. We actually needed something different than the people who were moving on. So it's like everybody's evolving at the same time.
Yes. And so I think that's such an important point, because I think some business owners have a fantasy that we're going to hire someone and they're going to be a family member and they're going to be with us for the rest of our lives in our businesses. And then when they leave, it feels like, oh my gosh, how could you?
Well, yes.
And so when we run our business from the mindset of we are all learning, growing, and evolving, that it gives us permission to replace team members and let team members go who may have been a good fit 3 years ago and are not a good fit now because we've moved into a different place with the business. And so they need to be released. They can go on and thrive somewhere else and be an A player on someone else's team, because they're not showing up as an A player now because the business has grown and it's different. And people have hopes and dreams. A players want to better themselves and they have their own interests. And you have team members that have been with you and they served a purpose in your business. They got you where you are. And then they're moving on to something else in their life that's a dream. And you're staying in contact with them. You invited them to this event. Why do that, Dr. Nancy?
Why? You know what? Because you know what? We're still connected. We still have the same immutable laws. There's still like my crew. They're my tribe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So just there, and they're going to help you recruit.
Mm-hmm.
A players hang together.
Yep.
A players know other players and other A players, and they will be possibly in the future sending you great team members.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's looking back on this, when I was in the process of writing and publishing my book, Stealth Health, the team members I had in place at that time were integral to it being published. Like, I couldn't have done it without them there. Same with my YouTube channel. When I started it, we knew that's what we wanted to do. It was on our quarterly planning that we needed to start some videos. I thought we would start with 5 videos and that would be it. Now I have over 250. But the team player we hired for that assistant position of mine, the tableside assistant, also had video experience. So he is the reason I have so many videos now. He started me, he got me to 120. And then when he moved on to find his dream job, he actually moved out to Arizona. So that was his dream place to live. I just kept going with the videos because he started it. And now we have new people in place today who are part of our process now about what we're looking ahead towards.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's all this growth and evolving going on continually. So let's talk a little bit now about how you recruit. How do you get A players on your team? You said you just hired 2. So where do you find them? Everybody's struggling. You're hiring. What are you doing?
Yeah, these last 2 we got from Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
We try our Facebook page. We try letting patients know, which has worked in the past. But these 2 happen to come from Indeed. And the way we write the ad is all about the culture of the practice. It's a little bit about the job, but honestly, pretty much any job except for the chiropractor in my office and the massage therapist, we can train you to do. We're really hiring on personality and immutable laws.
Mm-hmm.
So my staff go through those applicants, and they call out who doesn't fit, and they handpick people for us to interview. And this last time, when we hired another tableside assistant, we only interviewed 2 people. And one of the questions that you can add additional questions on Indeed, and the one question we asked was, what's your favorite video on Dr. Nancy's channel on YouTube and why? And there was the one person we didn't pick. She was probably more qualified with background, but we could tell right away in our interview questions. By the way, we do group interviews, so it's 5 of us with the applicant, and we have specific questions that kind of backdoor into our immutable laws.
Mm-hmm.
And we look for key phrases. We look for how they've resolved conflict in the past, how they work with everyday crises or challenges. And we could hear some red flags with this one person who actually, when we asked her about the YouTube video, we could all tell she didn't watch the video. She just picked a name of the video. And then the one that we just told her today we were going to hire her. She just naturally said all the right things. All just confirmed all of our immutable laws.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we know we have that fit. Now we just have to make sure that the work itself she can do. So we had her shadow today. Just shadow a shift and check it out and see if it would, if she would fit in the environment.
Mm-hmm. So you have done extensive work on your hiring process and the system that you use to attract applicants and make sure that they are a good fit. And I when you said this one person said all the right things, what you're describing is that they naturally, through the course of talking about their past and their hopes and dreams, were saying things that connected with your immutable laws. And one of the things I want to clarify about immutable laws is there is no way for an applicant to read your immutable laws on your website and spit them back at you and you feel like they're a good fit. If somebody is verbatim saying your immutable laws to you, they just read them. It's that natural storytelling where you hear that they've been in situations in the past and they've handled situations in a way that aligns with your immutable laws.
Correct.
And that's where you have that kind of gut alignment when you're talking to them, like, yeah, this is the right fit. This is a good fit for them. It's a good fit for us.
Exactly. Yeah, the immutable laws are something that when I first was trying to write down my immutable laws years ago, you had told me, well, whatever just kind of ticks you off and you don't know why, that's an immutable law conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said something, did something that just it doesn't align with you. And that's how it was created. And they all slightly evolved over time. And you're right. We talk these immutable laws in the office. When I do my one-to-one meetings with my individual staff, one of the questions I might ask them is, tell me what immutable law is like speaking to you lately, or you've seen in action. When we did our quarterly planning meeting the other day, I went around to the group and said, just tell me your favorite and why. And so they're part of our vernacular, but no, they are not out in the world anywhere. They are just within our office.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I want to share is like outside verification that you're a great place to work. And so when you're a part of our Better Business, Better Life program, you're in our Ascension program. And one of the things that we get to do with our Better Business, Better Life clients is we survey the A players on your team and we get their feedback. And we ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer a friend or a family member to work at Trimboli Chiropractic? And then we ask them for their reasons why. Well, Dr. Nancy gets 10 out of 10 all consistently, and so that's outside verification that she's not just standing here saying I'm a great place to work. Her A players genuinely feel this. And the other thing that's really fun and interesting to me is when we ask your A players to describe a great place to work, they go into the descriptions and spontaneously in their paragraphs, it says, well, Trimboli Chiropractic, it's a great place to work. and so that shows alignment that you're tuning in to who your A players are and what their experience is of a great place to work. And you're intentionally building on that experience. So I want to give you the chance to speak to some of the things that you intentionally do to make sure that the culture stays as strong and healthy as it is.
Well, I listen to my employees. For one thing, one of my staff said that we needed more time routinely to share together as a group. So that is our Friday huddle. We have a huddle after every shift. Our Friday huddle is specific for personal things that are going on, and we just talk about it as a group. And they're just fun. Just what are you doing this weekend? Or and we talk about that kind of stuff. So we purposely set aside time for that. The daily huddles after every shift, we talk about what were our wins today. And everybody goes around the room. We go around the room. Everybody gets to state what they did today, how they contributed, what their win was, and we have our goals also that we set on our quarterly meeting, and it's also checking in with those goals. So people have certain goals for their department, like they have their number for a goal, and so when somebody reaches their number for a day, it's super exciting. And so I think those huddles help a lot. Let's see. Also, putting people in the right spots based on their natural talents and their inborn gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Just having our people at the front desk, having our My tableside assistant, his one of his top characteristics is adaptability, because as we go through a day in chiropractic, we pretty much really don't know what's going to walk in the door next or get carried in the door. You just don't know. So he's extremely adaptable, and because it's a high-paced environment too. So he's able to he just thrives on that. It's not that he can do it, he loves it. That's his sweet spot of the adaptability. Just supporting things that are outside the office too, like knowing that this person's trying to save up money to buy a house, knowing that this person's dad is ill, knowing that this person has just gone through some kind of like breakup or something, just knowing that and knowing that we're there for each other, that really, really helps too.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So it's no surprise why we're featuring you in the Great Place to Work Spotlight. You're doing a lot of things to help your team members feel safe and supported. And the other thing that you do really nicely is you stretch people. And I know you're a chiropractor, so you're, no pun intended, stretching people, but in the psychological way of encouraging them to grow. You don't have people staying stagnant. You are creating career opportunities for people. So talk a little bit about people coming in at entry level, because you have people who've come in at entry level in your business and they've moved up in the ranks of the organization and have incredible opportunities in front of them because they've been a part of helping you grow.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of the backgrounds we've hired, people that have been in the hospitality industry, people that were in the law enforcement industry, who they come in, they're a good fit. We do the training, they thrive. And then because we're always on a mission to help our patients and our people and our audience to live their best lives, we brainstorm on ways that we can do that fit with our current model of business. And it's not only me that's being the creator, it's everybody. So we had this idea to create this new way of serving our patients, and it turned out to be this weight loss program called Contour Light, which uses cold laser to help people slim down, and then it's the nutrition. So it perfectly fits with our model of helping people outside of conventional medicine. And by handing over the reins and not doing hardly anything of that, it has allowed 3 of my team members to step up. One, she now is completely heading this department, and she wants to reproduce it in another location with my help. We have another who he's now a wellness coach. He's gone back to school on his off hours. He now has a new title that will allow him to use the degree that he's working towards helping more people. And we have a third member who she will probably step up into the office manager position as our office manager steps into the second location. So, and this is because I did less, because I stepped away, because I didn't take any responsibility.
That's so key. And when you have A players on your team, it's this mutually supportive relationship. You get out of the way, you get to go do the things that you find fun. You're traveling more, you've written books, you've got another book that's in the works in your head. And then your team members have that opportunity to grow. And what I think is so challenging for a lot of business owners is we've been burned by bad team members, bad hiring experiences. So we hang on. We don't want to let go of things. And when you hire A players, you realize you have to let go. Otherwise, they're not going to stay because they don't get to grow. A players want to grow. So I celebrate you in the Great Place to Work Spotlight, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you. I appreciate the time to just tell you all about my awesome team.
Yeah. And I think that what you've shared is very inspiring to other business owners who are listening. And so what I want to say, if you're listening to this and you're in that place of, oh my gosh, that sounds incredible to have a team like Dr. Nancy has. I wish I had that kind of team. you really can do it. It's simple. It's not easy. You can't just flip a switch and make it happen, but it's having a clear intention that you want to create a great place to work, that you want to be an employer of choice for those A players that you want on your team, and then learning the skills. And we've got the How to Hire the Best course coming up. It's a 5-week course, and you build your A player attraction system as part of the course. And so all the things that you've heard Dr. Nancy talking about here, the seeds of that start in the How to Hire the Best course, and they continue to grow. And that's the beauty of this, is that you've planted these seeds, Dr. Nancy. You've watered them, you've nurtured them, and they've grown into something very beautiful in your culture. And so I want to celebrate that with you. And for those of you who are interested in the course, you can go to tapthepotential.com/course and get all the information there and get signed up. And one of my favorite things is the Q&A sessions in the How to Hire the Best course, because I get to interact with business owners, and we talk about, hey, I've got this job ad out there. It's not getting any results. What should I do? What should I change and tweak? Or, we did this interview and I don't know if this person's a good fit. They look really great on paper, but there's some things they said. So we have that opportunity to go back and forth, and I'll support you and help you figure this out, so that your chances of hiring those A players increases every single time you make an improvement to your hiring system. So, and Dr. Nancy, you've been a part of the course. You've sent team members through the course. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I think is a little different about this course. So if you would talk a bit about your experience in sending team members through it.
Sure. That's how I was originally introduced to you, was through a How to Hire the course, How to Hire the Best course. And, the team really picks itself. Like I said, we do group interviews. Yes, I'm part of the group, but really when you hire somebody, they're working with the team.
Yes.
I mean, I show up because my name's on the door, and, but really the new team members are going to be trained by and work with the team. Mm-hmm. So that made it even more important that the team became involved with the hiring. And actually, they did a way better job on it than I could ever do. It's not my sweet spot to do that. Mm-hmm. It turns out it has become the sweet spot of specific people on my staff.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of getting people working from their strengths and doing the right things that the business needs. So for those who are interested in the course, go to tapthepotential.com/course. It's the How to Hire the Best course. Dr. Nancy, as we close, the last question I have for you, if you could go back and talk to yourself 10 years ago about growing a team, what would you say to yourself at that point in time to encourage you to keep going forward on that journey?
I would say fire quickly. You're better to run short of people than keep a bad apple around, because they infect everything and everybody. And that's scary, but definitely just let them move on. Mm-hmm. And also, that vacuum that you created will attract another person that's a better fit. But be quicker about it.
Yeah, those are some powerful words of wisdom. Thank you, Dr. Nancy.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sabrina.